Hello everybody. What do you mean by structuring the loan? The structure of a loan represents the way in which the loan is set up to accommodate the best interests of both the lender and the borrower. In this video, I'm gonna talk about different elements that make up the structure of a loan. The first element is general deal terms. It starts with defining who the borrower is. It's necessary to make sure that we know the right entity as a borrower. We also align on if there will be a guarantor for the loan and who guarantor is. Guarantor is the legal entity that assumes the responsibility for a debt in the event that the borrower defaults. Having a guarantor helps to de-risk the loan. Next is a lender. Lender is the entity or a group of entities that makes funds available to the borrower. Facility type. This takes one of two forms in dealings. Here they are. Term loan. A facility where the lender provides a lump sum of money to the borrower and the borrower is expected to pay back following a preset repayment schedule. Revolving credit facility. A facility where the facility size is made available by the lender for the borrower's use. Unlike in a term loan, the borrower has the ability to withdraw, repay and withdraw again as many times as they like. Next is the seniority of a loan that we extend. Seniority refers to the order in which a borrower's debts are repaid in the event that it goes out of business. The highest ranking debt in order of seniority is referred to as senior debt. All other debt is referred to as subordinated debt. Senior debt holders are usually paid a lower interest rate than subordinated debt holders as their debt is viewed to be less risky. Senior debt is often, but not always, also secured debt. Secured debt is debt for which specific assets have been put up by the borrower as collateral. It is also called senior secured debt. Next, we'll talk about our facility size, currency, coupon, and tenor. Facility size is the amount of the facility in question. The entire facility can either be committed or be a combination of committed and uncommitted amounts. Currency. That's the currency that the loan is granted in. Coupon. The annual interest the borrower pays on the facility. Tenor. The amount of time after closing that the loan's final payment is due. Principal and interest payments. Interest payment frequency, the frequency with which interest payments are made. Principal payment schedule. This refers to the predetermined schedule with which a borrower is to make principal repayments. Loans typically either have bullet repayments or amortizing, where the first one is entire principal due at the maturity and second one defined by portions of the principal are to be paid back at an agreed upon schedule during the tenure of the loan. So, that was all about general deal terms. Now let's talk about collateral. Collateral is an asset that is pledged by a borrower as security for a loan. It serves to de-risk a loan. In the event of a borrower's default, the collateral can be liquidated to cover the value of the loan. It is important to feel difference between on-chain collateral and real-world collateral. On-chain collateral determined as loans that are known as crypto loans with collateral. Crypto lending protocols allow users to borrow crypto by depositing some other crypto as collateral. Real-world collateral works this way. Borrower pledges real-world collateral to backers, then backers give loan to borrowers. Real-world collateral can take different forms. Receivables. A receivable represents the right to the cash flows of the loan the lender originated. It can be bought, sold, and freely transferred from one entity to another. Next form of real-world collateral is cash in bank accounts. That means a pledge of cash in bank accounts as collateral. In the event of the default, the lender can lay claim to the cash in the bank accounts that were pledged. Next form is other assets owned by the company. Technically, any asset of value can be pledged as collateral, and so borrowers can pledge any of their other assets outside of receivables. And lastly, sometimes the lender may require the borrower to pledge all of his assets as collateral for the loan. This is referred to as an all-asset debenture. Next, let's talk about covenants. Covenants of a loan are the agreements between a borrower and its lenders that the borrower will operate within certain rules set by the lenders. Covenants are made to help disclose important information about the company and act as a hedge to help prevent the company from defaulting. There are three types of covenants. Financial covenants. These are the covenants that are financial in nature. They are made of following types. A. Loan to value, also known as LTV. Value of a loan compared to the size of the collateral. LTV is represented in percentages. Amount equals LTV times the value of collateral. B. Debt to equity. The ratio of a company's debt to its equity. It is calculated by dividing the company's debt by its equity. C. Minimum cash requirements. The minimum amount of cash a company must have on its books at all times during the loan term. Next type of financial covenants is portfolio covenants. These are the covenants that apply to the quality of the borrower's portfolio and are applied to ensure that the borrower's portfolio meets the specified quality level. These typically take a few forms. A. Days past due covenants. Covenants that stated as a proportion of a company's portfolio that is at least X number of days past due stay below a predetermined percentage threshold. X typically is 30, 60, or 90 days. B. Another set of portfolio covenants are the loss rates. These state that the proportion of the portfolio lent out that the company loses be below a certain percentage threshold. And lastly, information covenants. They represent pre-agreed rights to information that the lender has and that the borrower must comply with. These typically include A. Company financials, B. Portfolio reportings, and C. Any other information deemed important by the lender. They are checked at pre-agreed time intervals, and the borrower is considered insolvent if they violate these agreements. That was final thing about covenants. Now let's talk about documentation. It has a term sheet and agreements. A term sheet is a non-binding agreement that shows the basic terms and conditions of a loan. The purpose of a term sheet is to ensure that both the lender and the borrower are aligned on the structure and terms of the loan before they begin drafting the longer form loan agreements. The contents of a typical term sheet are the structural elements that I've talked about until this moment. Once the contents of the term sheet have been agreed upon by the borrower and the lender, they are signed by both parties. If due diligence is carried out by the time the regulations are signed, then the parties immediately involve lawyers and immerse themselves in drafting agreements. If due diligence is not carried out, then agreements are drawn up after completion of due diligence. Facility agreements. These are the legally binding documents that lay out the terms and conditions governing a facility. They are drafted by lawyers and signed by all parties to the agreement. Usually, they are longer and more detailed than the term sheet. These agreements made up of the loan agreement, security agreement, and the guarantee agreement. Loan agreement is the legally binding contract document the terms of the facility. Security agreement is the document that gives a lender a security interest in the assets that are pledged as collateral. Guarantee agreement is the document that the guarantor signs, making them liable to assume the debt if the borrower fails to meet their obligations. That is all for this video. I hope now you are understanding the loan structure much better. See you soon.